everyone. It is Sheena, and today I have a friend joining me. Introduce yourself.
My name is Chelsea Marcantel, and I am a playwright, and I live in Virginia.
So, if you live in Virginia, why are you in New York today?
I'm in New York today because I have a show, a reading that is opening. It's opening and closing on Friday. It's just one night reading in Times Square, and it's the first time I've ever had anything in New York, so I'm really excited.
Well, it's opening in Times Square?
Well, there's a room. The Dramatists Guild has a space in Times Square.
Okay.
So it's just, it's not in a theater. It's in a room that's part of a larger complex of theater spaces.
Yeah. I feel like there are a lot of people who are writers, but they don't have plays being read in Times Square. How is that possible for you?
Well, first of all, I'm a member of the Dramatists Guild, which I would really recommend to anyone who's a playwright, because they're just a super valuable resource. And they have a space in Times Square that is available to members. You just kind of apply for a slot, and I started working on the play that's going to be read at the Dramatists Guild Intensive last year in Chicago. So they were familiar with the play a little bit, and they were interested to see what had become of it.
Yeah. That's amazing. One day I want that. I write too, but I usually keep mine to myself, unless it's like on my blog. So you do inspire me in that sense. We'll let this little water go. Which, in speaking on blogs, you have a blog, which I must say is one of my favorite blogs. I love your writing style. I love the stories that you tell and the different types of things you talk about. Can you tell us about your blog and why people should read it?
Well, I started the blog some years ago. I started doing a project that a lot of people were doing at the time. It was called the Day Zero Project, where you set 101 goals for yourself to accomplish in 1,001 days, which is roughly 3.75 years. So I set these 101 tasks for myself, and then I started blogging about trying to get them done as a way to keep myself motivated and accountable. And then as time wore on, it just became a place for me to talk about not deeply personal things. It's not like my diary or anything, but things that interested me, and kind of see who else was talking about those things and be in conversation with other people. And eventually I realized, through trying to accomplish those 101 things, that I had become the kind of person that I wanted to be. So the list sort of got me to that place, and then I kind of let it fall away. So I didn't accomplish all of those things. I think I accomplished about 70% of them in the time frame. And there are a couple of them that I still, I'll blog about it if I finish one, but it's not the driving force in my life anymore. But I think that as a means to an end, it was a really great way to spend almost 4 years.
Yeah. What were some of the things on your list, or like your favorite things?
Oh, okay. Well, they ranged from like the sublime to the ridiculous. So one thing was that I had never been camping before, really camping, and slept on the ground. And so I put that on there, spend a night under the stars. And that led me to end up going camping in Oregon on the coast in this beautiful, beautiful forest where they filmed The Goonies and parts of Twilight. And it was fantastic, and that was a wonderful experience that I probably wouldn't have had if I had arbitrarily decided that I should. And then there were other things that were just dumb, like create the Cheetos donut. Because at some point, I think I was hopped up on cold medicine. I decided that Cheetos and donuts were meant for each other. So I actually made a little Cheetos donut recipe one day on my lunch break at work and made my coworkers try it.
Yeah.
So that was just, I don't know. It was kind of a whole range of things. And then there were other things that I didn't accomplish for whatever reason, like go to Europe. I had been to Europe when I was in high school, and I wanted to go back, but that's easier said than done financially.
Yeah.
So there were things like that. And then there was another thing that was have 10 first kisses. so I had 9, and then the 9th one was the band that I'm now married to. So the 10th one was not like a plausible.
Yeah. But maybe, well, did it say 10 first kisses with someone you're dating?
Well, yeah, 10 first kisses. And in fact, in that time frame, I had a couple of like repeat kisses from before I started the project that I didn't count because they had to be first, like the first time I'd ever kissed that person.
Because I was going to say maybe then like that 10th kiss could be like your future baby.
Oh, yeah, I thought about the 10th kiss being like when we kissed at our wedding.
Yeah.
And so now I was kissing my husband instead of like my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I guess if you count that, then I did accomplish it. But I don't think Miles would be very excited if I like set out to finish that goal.
Like it was a goal before I met you.
Right.
Don't you want me to achieve my goal?
I don't think that would play well.
That actually, speaking of the 10 kisses, reminds me of the post that you wrote. Something about like the 10 things you know about love or you know to be true.
Oh yeah. The 11. So we got married on 11/11. So I wrote to be published that day. Obviously, I wasn't sitting at the computer that day. The 11 things that I figured out at the tender age of 28 about being in love.
But I will say, I felt like it was so honest and true and universal and one of my favorite posts that you've written. And there, like everyone has posts on like, what is love or na. And yours just felt so, and it's what I noticed about your writing in general, like it's just so raw and real, and you really resonate with it. Do you mind, I think you all should go and read the post, and I'll link it in the video, but what's one of the things that was on the list?
I remember one of the things, and I think the thing that inspired me to write the list, besides just my deep and abiding love list, was that I read a while back a Nick Hornby quote. Nick Hornby, who wrote About a Boy in High Fidelity. Before I even met my husband, I read this quote that said that something, I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines of like, mystery and games is all well and good, but when you meet the person that you're supposed to be with, they show up when they say they're going to show up. And I didn't really understand that when I was younger and you know, kind of trying to figure out what I really wanted from someone. And then when I met Miles, my husband, one of the things that immediately made me know that this was something different was the fact that excuse me, there were no guessing games, and there was no like we're having to pretend not to feel as strongly as we did. It was just kind of like, I like you and you like me, and we're going to be honest about what we're feeling, and we're not going to try to throw each other off the scent, you know?
Yeah.
So if I say that I'm going to pick you up at 7, then I'll be there at 7.
Yeah.
And that's when I really understood what that quote meant, and that whole concept of just like, it's all very well and good when you're young and you're having a good time, you're living in the big city, and you're meeting all these exciting, interesting people, but you can't sustain a relationship on anything but honesty and trust.
Yeah. Did you hear that? You cannot sustain a relationship on anything but honesty and trust. No, I agree. This reminds me of like about a month back. I met this guy. He was cute. We exchanged numbers, and the next day we were supposed to go out to dinner. And at first it was set for like 8 o'clock. Well, at first he didn't pick a time. He was just like, we'll go to dinner. So that next day I'm like, okay, what time are we meeting? And he said 8 o'clock, and I was like, you know what? That's actually not going to work for me. And he was like, well, wait, 5:30 works. And I'm like, but you told me you could only do it at 8. And I was like, I can't make it. And so he said, well, tomorrow then let's meet. Do you have time? And I was like, well, I'm meeting some friends for brunch. But why don't you come to the brunch with us? I'm like, hey, that's a great introduction anyway. My friends will grill you, whatever. I can, you know. And I was like,
guys love that, from what I understand. Meeting the friends, they love that.
Yeah. So I was like, well, we'll meet at 10. This is the place. And so then the night, like later on that evening, I was like, you know, do you want to come? And he's like, yeah, I'll be there. And that morning before I left out, I was like, you know, I'm on my way. Do you know how to get there? And he was like, well, I'm not sure which one. I was like, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, in this day and age, Google Maps can help you out.
And he was in the military. Like, you navigated where to drop bombs, but you can't figure out where to go on the grid in New York City. But then he didn't show up to that either. And so for me, I was already like, this guy is like, you don't show up, and you change things, and you're wishy-washy, and you can't navigate a city when you travel the world. And so later that night, when he was like, yeah, I couldn't show up, but maybe next time I'm in town, I was like, you know what, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time. This just isn't going to work. And it just goes along with what you said. Like, I feel like when you meet that right person, they show up. The games are not there.
It's true. And I know every relationship is different, which is why I hesitate to give advice. But at the same time, I went through a lot of relationships where there was a struggle, and it was always like trying to reconcile things that obviously weren't meant to be. And I thought at the time the struggle was worthwhile, because it was like, well, anything good is worth fighting for, and love is about transforming yourself. And then when I met Miles, it was like, no, love is just about being yourself and finding someone that is totally okay with that, and that you really like being themselves around you too. And so it was just the easiest thing that had ever happened to me, and it was just so drama-free that it was really refreshing. And so, we only dated for 6 months before we got engaged, but it was like, this is right. This is exactly what's supposed to happen. And we're not going to even make a big deal out of being like, we should date longer, or maybe we don't really know. It's just like, no, we're good. This is it.
How long have you been married now?
6 months.
6 months.
We've been married 6 months Friday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I like Miles. Like, it's rare that, I mean, not that means anything for your marriage, but it's rare that, like, I like the significant other of people that I know. I'm just always like, ugh. But knowing, like, I knew both of you separately from the theater world. And so I'm like, oh, two awesome people together. It's like a power couple in theater.
We had a lot of mutual friends, because he's a sound designer and I'm a playwright. We actually met doing a show, which is the same show I met you on. And we had so many mutual friends that when we started dating, it was like everybody was our grandparents. And we're like, oh, that's so great. But it's nice to not have it's nice to be dating someone your friends don't hate. Because I've been through that too. Where they're just like, you gotta dump that guy, you know? And it's hard to sort of take yourself out of that equation and be like, they may have a point. But luckily not an issue.
Perfect. I'm sure there are many people that aspire to be a writer, or to be a better writer, or to be published, or whatever that may be. What are like 3 tips that you would have for?
I think that the jealousy and the conflict starts when you allow some external circumstance to determine whether or not you think you've made something good. Like, just like figure out where he lives, just take pictures of yourself.
I guess, but I don't even know why I have this weird fantasy in my head.